Good evening. The 38th meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. Tonight's invocation will be led by Reverend Sam Park of St. Moses Church. If everyone would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Baltimore City Council and its work in the city. We gather today at this meeting to do the business of this city and the undertakings, the bills, the amendments, the programs. May we learn not only what we are doing, but what we must do to continue as effective servants of our city and our community. Teach us anew the importance of working together as a team and with a common goal, and warn us again against petty political concerns. Encourage us yet once more with the vision of an America with peace both within our borders and without, and justice for all. Guide our thoughts, our decisions, that we may effectively serve you, the city, and our community in the days ahead. And may we know the blessings of your presence in our deliberations. And all this we ask in the name of the Lord God Almighty. Amen.
Amen. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend, thank you. Really appreciate you. Okay. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Young, Cohen, Scott, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening's showcase, we welcome Joni Hollifield, founder and president of Heart Smiles.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joni Hollifield. My grassroots organization is called Heart Smiles. I believe anytime that I'm able to talk about what we're doing, it's always best to highlight some of the young people that we're actually working with. Our program is a grassroots organization, and we focus on teaching young people the basics of leadership and entrepreneurship. So we talk to them about the character traits and the attributes that you need, not only to be successful as a leader, but just also to be successful as an entrepreneur in life, and not just business, but owning any and everything. So shout out to Councilman Yitzi, because he has been one of our amazing partners through the duration of us, and he actually invited us here tonight, so thank you. This is Monet, y'all.
Hi everyone, my name is Monet Johnson and I'm a part of Heart Smiles. Being a part of Heart Smile helps you do what you want to do in life. It helps you get towards what you want to be and what you want to do.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Elford, and I am a youth entrepreneur at Joni Hollowfield's program. I am also a local rapper in Baltimore. Joni helped me start to feed the homeless, and she started me want to start my own foundation and, you know, just be a youth entrepreneurship and just be different.
How's everyone doing? My name is Jerome Waters. I'm also one of Joni's youth entrepreneurs. She began to teach me the principles of owning a business. At first, I had an idea, but Joni turned it into a reality. So I really want to give her a big shout out for helping out multiple youth in the community. And we're actually on our way to another program after this, but she's always moving, always on the go, and I appreciate her for the help that she gives us.
Yeah, we passed out some business cards on the tables, so my contact information is there. So if anybody is interested in learning more or being a part of what we're doing, please feel free. And thank you again, Councilman Yitzi, for offering us this opportunity, because it doesn't come along often. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the youth fund? Okay. All right. Thank you, Joni, for all that you do, encouraging our young people to be all that they can be. Again, thank you. Let's give her a hand. It is the council's custom to journalize the invocation. I ask for a motion to journalize the prayer. Motion by Council Vice President Middleton, second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor of journalize the invocation say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Approval of the journal. We will now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal of the proceedings from the June 11th City Council meeting is on council members' desks.
Is there a motion to approve the journal? Motion by Councilman Scott, second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of adopting the journal say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried and the journal is adopted. Bills withdrawn.
City Council Bill 18-0260, Charter Amendment, Charter Commission Recommendations for City Council and Mayor Articles. City Council Bill 18-0261, Charter Amendment, Charter Commission Recommendations for Comptroller Article. City Council Bill 18-0262, Charter Amendment, Charter Commission Recommendations for Board of Estimates Article. City Council Bill 18-0263, Charter Amendment, Charter Commission Recommendations for Office of the Inspector General.
Bill signed by the mayor is on page 4 through 11 of the agenda. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 18-0268, Ordinance of Estimates Fiscal Year 2019 Capital Contribution to the Operating Budget of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for fiscal year 2019. For the purpose of stating that Baltimore City's capital budget contribution to Baltimore City's public schools capital budget, as shown in Ordinance 18-139, is $19 million instead of what was stated in Resolution 18-07, the operating budget for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Budget and Appropriation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0269, rezoning 5601 Eastern Avenue. For the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 5601 Eastern Avenue, Block 6694, Lot 028, as outlined in red on the accompanying plan, from the I-2 zoning district to the C3 zoning district. Sponsors, Cohen.
Okay. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is in support of the PEMCO project over in the Bayview community. I want to thank you for your support, as well as the mayor, as well as both the presidents of the Greektown Community Association, Liam Davis and Mike Ball, over in Bayview. This is a great example of development that is happening not along the waterfront, but in the neighborhood without public subsidy. The only thing that was given to this developer and not by the city was some support with remediation. This is a very, very toxic site. And so we are excited to see this move forward as an example of what can happen when developers invest in our neighborhoods and in our communities. It will be a great mixed-use project, and we are proud to support it. There's some work that needs to be done around the PUD. But I thank you, Mr. President, and all the communities in the area for your support.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Land Use Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0270, Plant Unit Development Designation 5601 Eastern Avenue. For the purpose of repealing the existing development plan for the 5601 Eastern Avenue Plant Unit Development and approving a new development plan for the 5601 Eastern Avenue Plant Unit Development. Sponsors, Cohen.
This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee. Resolution introduced.
City Council Resolution 18-0090R, Investigative Hearing, Baltimore City Board of Liquor License Commissioners. For the purpose of calling upon the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City, BLLC, to prepare for and participate in a requested public hearing on the crucial issues raised by a coalition of North and Northeast Baltimore City community associations, including the need for improved police department, BLLC, interagency communications, and joint enforcement efforts to terminate Baltimore City liquor license establishments violating the safety and well-being of the neighborhoods where they are located. Sponsors, Clark, Henry, Burnett, Bullock.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President.
Hold on. Try again, Councilwoman. All right, you got the wrong mic.
I got this. Thank you, John. Mr. President, members of the council, this resolution is the result of a petition that a group of neighbors and neighborhoods worked on for at least a month. If I may just take a moment to tell you the signatories of the petition who worked to get the wording right and the message right. Waverly Improvement, Able Improvement Association, Charles Village Civic Association, Better Waverly Improvement Association, Winston Govins Improvement Association, Edna Gardens Lakeside Civic Association, Strong City Baltimore, its director and program director, and also elected officials, Senator Joan Carter Conway, Delegate Maggie McIntosh, Delegate Mary Washington. It has a lot of support, and what it asks for is for the city council and Councilman, my colleague from the 4th District and I are co-sponsors and leaders here in the council of this effort. What this petition asks for is not a reconsideration of this case or that case at the liquor board. We've won them, we've lost them, but we've noticed a pattern. And the pattern includes the police department and the liquor board need to work and communicate closer together so that when the police come to testify, it's the first time the liquor board heard about a problem. Or when the liquor inspectors go out to look at a place that's being complained about, they don't coordinate with the police to find out with what they already know. So that's just one example. And another happens to be, what are the rules of engagement and how do we, the general public, learn them, know them, see them, without going through depths of website roadways? What do we have to know before we come in? And what kind of rules of engagement with the liquor board are there? So that we're all on level playing fields, and that's what the hearing's about. It's more of a conversation and than a hearing, but it's an important conversation. And why is it coming here? Because since this administration has come into office, the liquor board is now appointed by the mayor of Baltimore City, and the employees have always been employees of the city of Baltimore, members of civil service. This is our liquor board. The laws are the state's, but the board is ours. And we need to sit down and have a conversation about how best we work together and keep our neighborhoods safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. This has been assigned to the Judiciary Legislative Investigation Committee. You can find the consent calendar in Section A at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Motion by Councilman Scott, second by Council Vice President Middleton. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This calendar is approved. When you don't say anything, it says you confirm. Okay. We'll now move the bills on second reader. Executive Appointments Committee. I appreciate if you all say yea or nay. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Mr. President, I make a motion to move to have short titles read for the remainder of the meeting.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of short title for the remainder of the hearing say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0147 Quentin Lathan, Member Board of Licenses for Towing Services, District 7.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes. Are you on? Are these mics all mixed up?
Mine, I guess you need John's. John, you might be the last man standing.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee held a hearing on June the 13th, 2018. I move the nomination favorable.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of confirming this nominee say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. This motion is confirmed.
EA
Nomination is confirmed.
EA 18-0148 Thomas Showalter, Member Board of Licenses for Towing Services, District 10.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
I move the nomination favorable.
Second by Councilman Reisinger. All those in favor of confirming this nominee say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. This nomination is confirmed.
EA 18-0149 James H. Fields, Member Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals, District 3.
Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
I move the nomination favorable.
Second by Councilman Dorsey. All in favor of confirming this nominee say aye. Those opposed, nay. The nomination is confirmed. Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0199 Charter Amendment, Office of the Inspector General.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the sponsor of the bill, Councilman Dorsey, if that's okay.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a great experience. I just want to say, being able to negotiate a solution on this bill that worked for the council, the committee, the council president, and the administration through there are 13 amendments to this bill, and I think it represents a great compromise that, as the sponsor of the bill, that I started working on almost a year ago at this point. I'm happy with these amendments. I think that it means that it's a bill that I think still has the integrity of the intention of the bill and what the city deserves of an inspector general's office, but just really that we were able to work something out that doesn't just satisfy me, that I think that it satisfies the administration and everybody else that has had concerns with this bill. So I appreciate the work of the chair and the council president, staff, and the administration on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Dorsey. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Dorsey. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reading.
City Council Bill 18-0200, City Property Renaming Radke Park to Ralph Sears Fields at Radke Park.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
You don't want to say anything?
Oh.
Okay. Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reading.
City Council Bill 18-0216, City Property Renaming Ambrose Kennedy Park to Henrietta Lacks Educational Park.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reading.
City Council Bill 18-0222, Charter Amendment Equity Assistance Fund.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, I'd like to recognize the chief sponsor of both this bill and the following bill, Councilman Scott, if that's okay.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the council, I am proud that we are at the point where we're going to be moving forward with both of these bills. We know that this will not immediately erase the hundreds of years of inequity in the city of Baltimore, much of which has been carried out by the city government. But what this bill, these bills, and the adjoining fund does is it does show that from now on, starting with this city council, the city government will start to have to act in a way that's more equitable for all the citizens, no matter of race, no matter of sexual orientation, income, or of gender. This is a great day for the city of Baltimore, and I think that we'll look back on this day 20 years from now and say this is where we began to see Baltimore turn the tide for inequity. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reading.
City Council Bill 18-0223, Equity Assessment Program.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reading.
City Council Bill 18-0229, Charter Amendment Fair Election Fund.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to recognize the chief sponsor of this bill, Councilman Burnett, if that's okay.
Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to start by thanking all the co-sponsors and organizations that have supported this bill. It can have a transformative impact about democracy in Baltimore and how we run elections in Baltimore in a more equitable way, and creating a path for members of the community to step up, like all of us have, and have a real shot at winning an election in Baltimore City on the city council seat or above. It's a huge deal for the city, and I'm looking forward to bringing this to the voters, to the ballot box, and having their support, and then working along with my colleagues so that we can identify how do we pay for this? Where does the money come from? But I'd start by saying that it's important to note that we already pay for elections when we talk about ballot boxes, when we talk about the facilities and staffing that goes into it. And this is just yet another step in the right direction for the voters of Baltimore to have an increased stake in the outcomes of elections and in shaping the democracy in Baltimore City. And so I'm just asking my colleagues to support as written, and so that we can continue to move forward with this bill and work with the commission to establish a fund that can really have a transformative impact on the city of Baltimore for generations. So with that, thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Chair recognizes Councilman Schleifer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First off, I want to thank Councilman Burnett for introducing this legislation. I've known Councilman Burnett a long time, I think longer than I've known anybody in this room. And as we both launched our grassroots campaigns together, we discussed many different needs for reforms to allow community organizers like ourselves better opportunities for elective office. So I thank him for his work on this. And as a supporter of this bill, I've been told that this bill would be funded in one of a few ways. One, opt-in options on various city service bills where you can check off a box to contribute. The second, with different grants and foundations. The third, funds collected from penalties, an example of which could be campaign finance, violations. All those are very fair ways to fund this election bill. This bill also has a few words in it that leaves an option to create a new tax on the citizens of Baltimore to fund it. So my amendment is pretty simple, to keep fair election fund fair and not offer the opportunity to reduce any city services or require our citizens to pay for our campaigns. And so I submit an amendment simply just striking out and changing it to be non-tax options to fund it. Thank you.
Second by Councilman Reisinger. Let's do a roll call because I'm not going to be guessing these votes.
President Young,
No.
Councilman Cohen,
No.
Councilman Scott, Councilman Dorsey, Councilman Henry.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I could just vote no, but I thought I owed my colleague a little bit of an explanation, which is one of the things that I know I strive for here in this chamber is to give the city council as much of an opportunity as possible to do the will of the people and to go out of our way to restrict the ability of this council to fund something that we are about to, I believe, pass because we agree we ought to do it, seems like, why would we, I mean, it seems silly to restrict us from how we could fund this. So I vote no.
Councilman Schleifer? Yes. Councilwoman Middleton? Yes. Councilman Pinkett? No. Councilman Burnett?
Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
It's a no for me, and I want to say this. I want to second my colleague from the 4th District in that we should be striving to do things in a way that provides as much flexibility as possible, and tiring our hands in doing so isn't good practice. But most importantly, there is no revenue source identified in this bill. In fact, it establishes a commission to look at a variety of ways over a significant amount of time to identify how do we fund this. business in a way that doesn't impact things like funding rec centers and grass cutting and all of the things that we know people in the city of Baltimore want to see us do. And so I look forward, should I continue to have your votes on this bill, to working alongside the commission that this bill establishes to have really smart fiscal policy in a way that doesn't cripple the city, but does do with the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is to give the public more input and more of a stake in elections in Baltimore City, and limiting our ability to do so is very problematic. And so I'm voting no and would encourage my colleagues to continue to do the same. Thank you.
Councilman Bullock? Councilman Reisinger? Councilman Costello?
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be voting yes on the bill. I support the concept of the bill. I also agree with the concerns raised by my colleague, Councilman Schleifer, and I do hope that we can address those concerns in whole once we debate an ordinance at such a time. So I vote no on this amendment.
You vote?
No on the amendment.
Okay.
Councilman Stokes? Councilwoman Snead? Councilwoman Clark?
It fails for, what is it, 13 to 2. It fails. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. We still need to.
The bill favorable is amended.
Do we still need to move the amendment?
No.
Oh, okay. Mr. President, I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0251, obstructing traffic at an intersection, $125 fine.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. This motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0259, Fire Code repealing Appendix D.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to give a little bit of background on this bill, which Councilman Dorsey introduced. Several city council members, I believe all of us, have been engaged in discussions with the administration, various departments within the administration, and especially the fire department over certain delays in two areas. One of those are development projects, and the other area has to do with cycle track infrastructure. There is, from what I have seen, and I believe I speak for the sponsor and the president and the rest of my colleagues, growing frustration with the fire department's ability to approve projects in a timely manner. Now, we know from meetings that we had with the administration last week that there are some process issues which are being worked on. Other agencies have been brought to the table. This is not solely on the fire department. That being said, though, the frustration has grown to a point where the council has been put in a position where it needs to take action to help move things along. There are specifically 4 development projects: the Charles Village Streetscape, the towns at Eager Park at 1001 Rutland Avenue, the Woodbury Subdivision, and Yard 56 at 5601 Eastern Avenue, Pemco, which we believe there are delays associated with fire department approval. In addition, there is one cycle track project in the city right now, which is fate is not known at this time. That is the Maryland Cathedral cycle track. What we are asking the fire department, and more specifically the administration, to do is get us final resolution on all 4 of those development projects, as well as the cycle track, determining the final fate of what that cycle track is going to be. We know there was a lot of contention over another one in the city, and we want to have this resolved for the citizens. So that being said, I plan on making a motion in a moment, but the council's expectation is that we have final determination on all 4 of those projects, those development projects, and final determination of Madison and Cathedral cycle track by no later than July 9th. If we don't have final determination on all 5 of those items, we will move forward and pass this bill. We're prepared to do that. So with that, and also let me add, on July 9th, we will be coming back, and if we do see demonstrable progress and those 5 items are resolved in one way, shape, or form by fire department, as well as the other city agencies that are involved in that. We will be asking for additional steps to address from a policy perspective both the development projects and cycle track infrastructure. And our expectation will be by the subsequent council meeting that we have recommendations from the administration, whether that be legislative remedy, executive order, policy changes, or whatever that may be. So with that, Mr. President, I move to hold the bill on second reader until the July 9th City Council meeting.
Second by Councilman Dorsey. All those in favor of holding this bill until the July the 9th council meeting, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion passes. This bill will be on second reader at the July 9th City Council meeting.
City Council Bill 18-0264, Charter Amendment, Charter Commission General Recommendations.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thought I was done.
You can't sit down yet.
Mr. President, there are amendments on my colleague's desk. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving these amendments say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Resolution 18-0080R, Traffic Light Synchronization.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably.
Second by Councilwoman Clark. All those in favor of approving this resolution say aye. Those opposed, nay. This motion to approve this resolution is adopted. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0215, Maryland Department of Transportation, County Transportation Revenue Bond, Series 2018.
Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee heard this bill on June 21st, 2018. The committee approved the bill as favorable. I move the bill with a favorable report.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. This motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0228, issuance of revenue obligations, stormwater projects.
Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee also heard this bill on June 21st, 2018, and the committee approved the bill as favorable. I move the bill with a favorable report.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving this bill say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader. Clearing of the bill status. The clearing of the bill status can be found on page 19 of the agenda. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I first rise to say that the Public Safety Committee will hold 2 voting sessions and 1 work session on July 3rd, starting on July 3rd at 10 a.m. with Resolution 18-0070R, informational hearing, crisis preparedness and safety in our schools, at 10:05 a.m. 18-0002R, coordinate agency violence reduction strategy, and 17-0047R at 10:10 a.m. for a work session calling for an expansive auxiliary police program in Baltimore. Mr. President, the Public Safety Committee will also hold a hearing on July 16th at 5 p.m. here in the Duburn's Chambers, reconvening a hearing for 18-0060R, multi-year coordinated comprehensive multi-agency violence reduction strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee announcements. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, July 11th at 5 p.m. This will be televised on Charm TV. This will be legislative oversight of the Druid and Ashburton Reservoir projects at the request of Councilman Pinkett.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, thanks. Mr. President, the Land Use and Transportation Committee will convene its hearing on Bill 18-0209, zoning code modifications, on January 27th at 1:05 p.m. in the council chambers. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 17-0164 on August 1st at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. This is a zoning conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to a 2 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district with variances located at 2240 East Baltimore Street. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18. The committee will hold a hearing on August 1st at 1:05 p.m. on Bill 18-0218 in the City Council chambers. This is a conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to a 2 dwelling unit in the R8 zoning district with variances at 807 North Monroe Street. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0239 on August 1st at 1:10 p.m. This is zoning conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 2 dwelling unit in the R8 zoning district with variances at 1613 West Pratt Street. Mr. President, I would like to move suspension of the rules to announce a hearing on Bill 18-0269.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of suspending rules and announce a hearing say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carried. Chair recognizes Councilman Vincent.
August 1st at 1:15 in the council chambers. The rezoning of 5601 Eastern Avenue. Mr. President, I'd like to move for suspension of the rules to announce a hearing on Bill 18-0270.
Second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor of suspending rules and announce a hearing say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carried. Chair recognizes Councilman Vincent.
This is August 1st at 1:15 p.m. in the council chambers. This is a plan unit development designation at 5601 Eastern Avenue. Which one's that? This one? What did I say? June? What is it supposed to be? Okay. Mr. President, I stand corrected. On the committee bill number 18-0209, the date is June the 27th at 1:05 p.m. in the council chambers.
Thank
And this
you.
is the zoning code for modifications. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock. Any more committee announcements?
Thank you, Mr. President. On Tuesday, August 14th, we will be hearing, the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee will be hearing Bill 180177, which is animal control and protection, sale of dogs and cats, and that will be here in council chambers at 2 p.m. And then on Thursday, September 13th, in council chambers, starting at 3 p.m., we'll be hearing Council Bill 180241, Urban Renewal Druid Heights Amendment, followed by City Council Bill 180242 at 3:05 p.m., which is the Urban Renewal Broadway East Amendment, followed at 3:10 p.m. by Council Bill 180243, Urban Renewal Poppleton Amendment, followed at 3:15 by Council Bill 180244, Urban Renewal Oliver Amendment, followed at 3:20 p.m. by Council Bill 180245, Urban Renewal Park Heights Amendment, followed at 3:25 p.m. for Council Bill 180246, Urban Renewal Coldstream Homestead Montebello Amendment, followed at 3:30 p.m. by Council Bill 180247, Urban Renewal Johnson Square Amendment, finally followed at 3:35 p.m. by Council Bill 180248, Urban Renewal Middle East Amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're on committee announcements, but we're on regular announcements. But tonight is the last council meeting for a dedicated and hardworking city employee. That is I don't want to mess up your name. Tulak. Did I say it right? Tulak? Okay. Thad joined this Department of Legislative Reference in June of 2010 and has been an asset to us all over the last 8 years. Respected and well-liked, Thad has been an important staff member who has always performed his duties with care and professionalism. Thad has been a team player and helped the legislative branch of government be successful. He will be missed. I have a resolution to thank him for his service, and any council person that'd like to say anything after I present the resolution is welcome to do so. And Thad, You don't have to stand up to get this because I told him I wanted framed. Okay? But it says the City Council of Baltimore resolution, be it hereby known to all that the City Council of Baltimore offers its sincerest congratulations to Thaddeus Watulak in recognition of your dedicated service within the Department of the Legislative Reference and to the City of Baltimore and its citizens. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and direct this resolution to be presented on this 25th day of June, 2018, resolution number 1525, Council President Young and all members. Anybody want to? Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thanks a lot. I started to write a funny resolution, but I never got it finished. And so, as usual, Thaddeus Watulak has taken the words out of my mouth and out of the minds and mouths of so many of us here from here in the Baltimore City Council. Somehow, he's been a wordsmith, a mind reader, a legal beagle who seems unflappable. No matter how many crises we decide to have about deadlines and getting things drafted and having what's in our heads somehow translate onto a piece of paper that maybe someday could become a law. To me, what Thaddeus does, what happens in legislative reference when it's happening the way Thaddeus does it, is almost a miracle of translation and mind reading and skill and caring. And it's irreplaceable. That's what I will miss. Sure, we'll find people who can somehow fit our thoughts into the right categories of the law, but it's hard to find someone who can actually fit our hopes and aspirations into words and paragraphs, and that's what Thaddeus has done. So I think it's just wrong that you're leaving. I know it's because of your wife, and I'm glad about the happy family. But it's just not right. And I know you like each one of us best. And we'll always, each one of us, know that because of the tension and concern you've shown. And you know, come on back once you've like done your thing in the Vermont. It's cold there. And they have blizzards, and gee, it sounds like Baltimore, doesn't it? So please come back. We'll be here waiting with our ideas, dreams, and we'll always want to be the first in line. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey. Then you, Brandon. Then you, Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I want to echo these sentiments. I had I feel like, special privilege of working with Thaddeus even before my first ever council meeting in order to be able to introduce a resolution on my very first night as a member of this council. So, that's really special to me to like have had somebody there to facilitate hitting the ground running. And I would be remiss not to mention the number of go-rounds and the amount of time that we put into the Inspector General bill that we passed here on second reader tonight, not to mention the 13 amendments that were made to it tonight. It's been just a real pleasure and a privilege to work with Thaddeus and to just get so many questions answered so diligently, so quickly, and to work through ideas and have somebody who saw things that I wouldn't see or ask questions that I wouldn't have thought or known to ask. So you'll be missed. Thank you, Thad. Really appreciate you, man. Mr. Council President, I do have another announcement, but I want people to keep talking about Thad. Can we come back to me? Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Scott. I said this was any council person wanted
Thank-
to say anything to Thaddeus. It has nothing to do with your regular announcement. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the council, just want to echo those.
It was 5 after 9.
Those right. I got plenty of time. Those sentiments, for me, I guess, Thad, we're glad that you're going to be happy. Thank you for reformatting God knows how many resolutions for me in the last minute. But everyone, we have to understand something. Thad's not leaving to go to Vermont because his family's found a better job. The thing I've enjoyed most talking with Thad about since he's been here in 2010 is the Orioles. And now the Orioles are so god-awful, they have run Thaddeus out of town. So, Thad, once we are able to, Mr. President, talk to Mr. Angelos and get the team right, we hope that you will come back. So thank you for everything. Enjoy, and I hope your new job is paying for the MLB package for you on DirecTV.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you. I just want to second everything that's been said by Councilwoman Clark and Councilman Dorsey and Scott, and just tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done, Thad. And even when we come to you at the last minute, you somehow find a way to treat what we're dealing with like a priority, and I think we all really appreciate it. So thank you, and wishing you the best of luck in your next chapter.
Thank you. Thad, I hope you left for SOP. Okay, make sure you do, or we're not going to let you leave. We'll hold your last check. I'm just joking, man, but we really appreciate you. You know, you had an even temperament. I never heard you get upset. I know sometimes we call you with last-minute stuff and expect for it to be right away, and you try to find a way to make it happen for us. So we want to thank you, and I wish you the best luck in Vermont. You going to? What's up with these Vermonts and these Rhode Islands and all this whole stuff? There's two people that I really think a lot of. I think a lot of people, but you and Kara are two people who we're going to deeply miss when you all move up to these states where it's going to be, like Mary Pat said, blizzards, all kinds of storms, and losing team. Y'all don't even have a baseball team. So, you know, I don't know what would be the closest baseball team to you. But I'm hoping that when you get there, the weather brings you back here. Because, you know, we have pretty good weather here in Baltimore. We oftentimes have like one snowmageddon a decade. But up in Vermont and those places like that, they get hammered. So I'm just wishing that you get those kind of snowstorms that'll make you want to come back to Baltimore. Regular announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott. Just joking here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just ask that Councilwoman Vice President Middleton honor a moment of silence for the now 135 victims of homicide that we've lost in the city of Baltimore, and all of those lost to the opioid crisis as well.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clark.
I'm sorry that the fire department chief and staff left the meeting early. If you haven't, council members, all received it yet, you should be getting a package that includes a DVD from the fire department. And I just wanted to make a comment about that because it relates to the bill that we have voted to hold for one council meeting here tonight. The fire department, after the hearing we had last week, chose to take the biggest possible fire truck out to Maryland Avenue in the same block as the one of the principal advocates for the bill that we were hearing that the fire department was opposing. And it also happens to be the same block as a member of the planning department who was assaulted by a fire department employee who went to court for that today. And who the fire department or their union or somebody is paying for somebody really good to defend. I just, you know, I want to acknowledge that to me this looks like an effort to intimidate people that have been in opposition to some bad policy making and bad decision making, and I think that the idea to deploy this truck in front of an advocate's house like this sends the message that maybe if a fire occurs at their house, that maybe they're not going to fight it. Maybe they're not going to be able to fight it. And I just think that it's a really despicably poor display of judgment for them to have done that, at least in that exact location. They could have chosen anywhere else to do it, and they decided to choose the block where they have both an advocate in opposition and somebody that one of their own assaulted in a public meeting. So I just wanted to let everybody take that into consideration as they view that, and I'm glad to have any other conversation with anybody else about the contents of that video. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Okay. Well, Councilman, I haven't seen that video. Had I known, I would ask the fire chief to stay here so we can have further conversation with him about that, because we're all trying to work in, cooperation to come to some resolution, and for them to go out and do something like that is really a slap in this body's face. So I really don't appreciate that, and I thought that the chief was a little smarter than that to do something like that. So we'll figure out how we get him back in here, and I'll have a conversation with the mayor about that. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Based on what Councilman Dorsey just said, and at your request, I've talked with Kara. Your office is going to send out a memo this week. We will call for an emergency hearing of JLI for later in the week to address this matter. I'd also add that there was a letter that was included with that DVD, Councilman, which I don't know that it contradicts, but it's a bit odd that we received a letter this week from, actually this afternoon, from the Chief of Staff to the Fire Department with some preliminary updates on the concerns that we raised earlier with respect to development projects and cycle track infrastructure. And we have this letter urging us all strongly to vote against this bill. So I'll work with your office, Mr. President. We'll get that scheduled for later in the week.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Just point of information, I'm just trying to understand, with all due respect, we have a bill, it's on hold. Are we having a hearing to?
No, we're not having a hearing on the bill.
Oh, just.
We're not having a hearing on the bill, Councilwoman.
Oh, okay, because I think it's, I like it resting comfortably where it is. Yeah, if I may.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilwoman, I apologize if I didn't clarify adequately. That's my fault. We're going to have a emergency legislative oversight hearing to deal with the concerns that Councilman Dorsey raised with respect to the DVD that we received today. There will be, there obviously is no change. The council's taken action to move, to keep this bill on second reader until July 9th, and we will deal with that matter at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you.
And Sharon, Vice President, you're next. You're next.
I've been, am I being sabotaged or am I self?
No, Councilwoman, what happens what happens is when we have hearings in here, people switch these mics around and don't put them back where they belong. And when Jose come up here to push them, we don't know where they are. So, so when people have hearings and they move the mics around, remember you have to put them back where they belong.
We will try. Thank you. I rise to ask for a moment of silence for Larry Stapler. A moment of silence is probably the last thing Larry Stapler would ever want to be part of, but he has passed. He is a wonderful, wonderful man. He ran Overly Catering for years, and he was very involved in the city and in politics and in charitable causes all over the city of Baltimore. He has passed on to his reward, and I know that he will forgive me for asking for silence when he would rather ask for celebration and joy, as he always did. It is a sad passing for our community here in Baltimore. We've lost a great spirit as part and a part of a great family. And I hope we'll have a moment of silence, whether he would want that or not, because he and his family deserve it. A wonderful, wonderful Baltimorean.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clark. And if those of you who don't know Larry Stapler, he was the one that had the Port Welcome, and then it later became, I forgot the name of the other entity, but if you ever been on the Port Welcome, he was the owner of the Port Welcome. A great man, and he helped a lot of people in Baltimore City. So I concur with the councilwoman on a moment of silence that he probably wouldn't want, but we're gonna give it to him anyway. Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton. I thought you had a.
Yes,
Oh,
I do.
she had an announcement.
We would be remiss if we did not give a round of applause to our Honorable Council President Bernard C. Jack Young. We'll be celebrating a wonderful birthday tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
So congratulations, and may you have many more.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Middleton.
You ready? The next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, July 9th, 2018. May we have a moment of silence for Larry Stapler? Stapler. A moment of silence for Larry Stapler. And also for the 135 victims of homicide for our city, and also for the continued multiple deaths that we are having here in the city with the opioid epidemic.
There have been no further business. This concludes the 38th meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council. Good night.